I've got stuff to throw today. Did no one duck? Everyone's like, bring it. Boiler's fixed. It wasn't me. It was above my pay grade. I tried everything. Oh man. If you have your Bibles, please turn to Colossians chapter 3. So I want to ask you as you're turning there, who saw, whether it's on Facebook or YouTube, the video I put out last week? Just raise your hand. Okay, 3 of you. Cool. Now why is it? Huh? Yeah, and so let me just say that Christopher has been, not he brought attention to himself, I'm going to bring some more. I look at him, now I'm having more fun with this because he's uncomfortable. But he has been a huge help with getting everything together. And I just want you to know that if those are beneficial to you, I sort of need to know. And then what I'm asking you to do is, especially on YouTube, if you would just subscribe to the Oasis Easton channel, we have got almost everything perfect that we can start doing testimonies and interviews. But I need your active involvement so that I can know that it's beneficial. Because if not, I'm not doing it for me. You know, I don't need to talk to somebody, but I have things that God has blessed me with. So who remembers what the main quote of the video is? Now we're going to see if you really listen. Everyone's going to, don't start playing it on your phone now. What you don't, boom, you transfer. Thank you. There was one. All right, so this is a powerful quote, and if you listen to last week's sermon, it's sort of like accentuated. So let me say it again, maybe in a different way. Everyone has pain in their past. Everyone. There's no one is exempt from it. Is that a fair statement? Everyone has pain. But the pain that you don't allow Jesus to transform, that you're not actively involved with, you will transmit it to those around you. It is a fact of life. It happens in parenting. It happens in marriages. It happens in everywhere. Everywhere. What you don't transform, you transfer. And that, to me, accentuated what I am trying, my past 5 years have been. It has been like a repetitive dealing with things that come up in life, and either putting them under the carpet and hoping for the best, that's called compartmentalization, or actually exposing them to the light, saying, Jesus, this is what has happened, whether it was my fault or not. So some of us have things that we have done that bring these problems. Others have had things that are out of our control. There's a lot of things that have been out of our control. And it is really hard when you are a control person to get away from having to be in control. As a matter of fact, a lot of people that have been victims of trauma have a very significant desire to control things around them, because they feel like if they could just do that. Matter of fact, I think for me, keeping things somewhat cleanly around me is, at one point in time, was about the only thing I could do with what I was feeling inside. Even if I was a wreck inside and there was turmoil, I could at least control this part of my life. And so that became sort of a compensation thing. You know, it's like, oh, I can keep things clean, but I didn't do it for other people. I did it for me because it brought me some sense of peace. And I know there's others who might just let it go because that gives them a sense of peace, not have to do the work. But if you don't really go through and let God transform those things, those places of healing, you will transmit them. And so part of the end of that video was where I said this: if you can't do it now for you, do it for those around you that you love, or maybe future kids or grandkids and all that stuff, because don't think that they won't see it. Don't think that you won't transmit it. I used to think, I don't think anymore. I used to think I had that stuff under control. That fire inside, I kept it in, and I was controlling it, right? It was sort of like a nuclear reactor. You know, as long as you keep control over it, but that thing's dangerous. And every now and again, that stuff seeps out, and it does some mad damage to people. So what you don't transform, whatever it is from your past, and matter of fact, that's for your future too. If something happens tomorrow that you don't allow Jesus to transform and you're not open to do the work, you will transmit that chaos all around you. Anyone experience that? Everyone should be saying yes, unless they're a little kid. We have all guilty of that, whether you want to admit it or not. And we can try to dish the cards out to say, well, I can trump that. I can control that one. I can control that one. And you just can't. So in Colossians chapter 3, we're going to look we're just going to start with verse 1. I was going to go a little later, but this is called putting on the old self, in my Bible is the header. If then you have been raised with Christ, seek the things that are above, where Christ is, seated at the right hand of God. So you're called to seek. That means action. That doesn't mean sitting and hoping for the best. You're supposed to seek out, and this is the beauty. God is resting. He's sitting down. His work is done. Now, that doesn't mean he's not actively doing things, but what he accomplished on the cross is finished for us. And so Christ can sit down, and he's there. And so it goes on to say, seek the things that are above, where Christ is, seated at the right hand of God. Set your minds, there's another action statement, set your minds on things that are above, not on things that are on the earth. We have to not focus so much on all that's wrong with life. Everyone in this room has issues, whether your own issues or someone else's that are infecting you. We all have stuff, but if all that you do is focus on all that's wrong, that's not what I want you to do with checking the gauges. I want you to be able to look and analyze that, but not to get lost in it. If you're not analyzing properly, you're not going to figure out where you really are. So, said another way, a brother recently said to me, it's like, I want to put guardrails all in my life. Now, here's my thing. If I focus on all the guardrails all the time and all the things that I can't do, then I'm going to get lost in that, and I'm probably, if you're in UPS, I'm a driving supervisor pieces of times, I've done that, but I drive over, you focus on where you're landing. I know Chris can tell you, aim high in steering. If you start looking at everything else, you're going to drift. And in the same way with life, you have this potential for spiritual drift. You have this potential for physical drift, mental drift, emotional drift, and some people have never been able to get underneath that, outside of that cloud. And even just go, why? This is the thing that God revealed to me. I asked this in one of the most difficult times, and this is pre-Laura. I'm like, why am I like I am? Why do I do the things I do? You ever ask yourself that question? All the time, yeah. I mean, there are just times I look, I'm like, man, who is that crazy guy? Why is it I could walk from this office across the street to our old home, and in that short period of time, turmoil would rise up right when I walk in the door? Why is that? Why is that? And I mean, why am I like this? And so it's taken years of just processing and not just burying it under the carpet and going, okay, why am I like I am? But then once you identify it, so you've got to identify it. You've got to identify it so it can be transformed. Whatever that thing is. And we all have different ways of expressing our issues. So you might look at me and say, well, I can't believe you, Eric, Pastor Eric, you've gotten angry before. Well, yeah. But I bet if I spend enough time with you, that door will creak open, or it'll be wide open, and it'll be very clear that what is inside is in turmoil, even though the outside is trying to contain it like a reactor. Concrete around it. I just can't let it out. I can't trust anybody. My life is full of trauma. But here's what I promise, that Jesus is faithful to that, to get you through it, if you allow him to transform. So, verse 3, for you have died, and your life with Christ is hidden. When Christ, who is your life, appears, then you will also appear with him in glory. So Christ is now our life. The past is not our life. It is a piece of our life. But now we say, Christ, come in. Asking him to save me is one thing. Another thing is to be changed. to be sanctified. It takes work. It absolutely takes work. If you think that you can't put attention to it and address it, you've got yourself fooled. You know, I know a number of people in AA and NA and different things like that, and one of the main things they got to do is identify they have a problem. Frankly, everyone in this room has a problem. Or you're fooling yourself. Or you've at least identified and let God to transform it, and you recognize that that card is in the deck and that you can pull that card out at any time. You ever pulled that card before out? You know, you just know it's there, that anger card. I'll just use mine. Like you think you're doing great, and you know that card's there and you feel it. Well, I'm just going to pull that. Here it is. Drop that card. Chances are that's because there are things inside that don't match with what Jesus means and when he says that Jesus is our life now. When Jesus is our life, it doesn't matter what someone does to us. When Jesus is our life, people can trample upon us. People can try to control us, and we can just say, I am free. You are free indeed. But just saying the things over and over will not help you. That is the power of positive thinking, and that is a sketch thing. You know, these preachers that get on there, it's like, just believe it and just say it, and you will be that. And I'm like, no. It doesn't work like that most of the time. Matter of fact, there's a number of you in here that I have talked with, and it's like we all want to have that altar experience where you come up and you drop down here and you shed some tears, and you say, God, deliver me. And you go home and nothing has changed. Because it does take effort. Holiness, i.e. sanctification, is a work. It is a process in your life. It takes action on your part. God is 100% wanting to do everything for you, but he's asking you to give 100%. Now, I wish Pam was here because she was a math person. What's 100% plus 100%? Man, you all got that right. How does that happen? Usually I'll have someone just, maybe you said it's just too quietly. A lot of people say 200%. No, there is no such thing. When these people get on TV, I'm 1,000% committed. I'm like, no, you're 100% committed. And I don't even believe that. But we're called to do what we're called to do in the same point in time. But why? Let's continue on. Verse 5, put to death. Are you seeing an action step there? Are you seeing it? Put to death, therefore, what is earthly in you. Holy cow. Put to death what is earthly. You have to identify it. I'm not angry. I get excited. Some of you newer people, I just want you to know, when I get loud, I get excited. I'm not angry. You know, but I just want us to see that. Put to death, therefore, what is earthly in you. How can you put something to death if you don't know what it is that's earthly? Right? So your past trauma can be earthly. It happened. The things that you act like the way you do, they happen. But what are you going to do with it? So it's not so much what has happened to you. It is how you work that out in your sanctification process. You can identify it all day long. Well, this happened to me. You know, oh, this happened to me. Or some people are just oblivious. Nothing happened to me. I'm just messed up. And sometimes that's true. But in other cases, it's like we have to identify, okay, why am I so impatient? Why am I so anxious? Why am I depressed? And a lot of times we revert back to, well, you know, it's just a physical condition. And there's some truth to that. There are some truth to that. But there is a big truth in identifying and saying, what is it? What is the root cause of my issue? Where am I? So you go and you identify, and I love it. I was with a brother yesterday, and we talked about it. Talked about his son was angry, and I told him, this is a couple of weeks ago, I said, don't ask him why he's angry. Ask him what is the source of that anger. Because anger is emotion. You can't stop it. It sort of rears up. It's a feeling. So you talk to a kid, and most adults, why are you angry? I'm angry because I'm angry. Because you did it to me. You made me angry. And we get that you problem going on. But he just sort of took that time to reflect it. So this is a reflective practitioner. Yeah, I want to ask him now, what is it that makes you angry? And that gets that young mind to think. Some of y'all didn't have that as young people. We just were taught that my anger is bad, get slapped because I get angry, instead of identifying the root of my anger. Now, this can be everything, folks. I'm just rolling with anger. You insert your issue into this. But if you just know it, if you just go and acknowledge, hey, I'm an angry person, that is not putting to death what is earthly in you. That is just identifying a problem. It's like getting a note from the IRS. Y'all ever got them IRS notes? You know, they come in there, you're afraid to open it. Just don't know what's going to see. You might put it on the desk and put it off. Oh, I don't want any of that. But you can't change what's going to inevitably come. Not opening that envelope is not going to fix the problem. Amen? The accountant should definitely say amen in here because, you know, it's fun like that. But the accountant. Yeah. Oh, I should say, Rob is preaching at Real Life. Pastor Mark lost his mom this past week, and so he stepped in and he's preaching there. So say a prayer for him. Matter of fact, let's just pray for him now. I love that guy. Lord, we just pray for Rob right now as he's in the pulpit, Lord, that you would bless him, that, Lord, that you would give him words of life. And, God, your people, our family as well, Lord, would be encouraged by him. Spirit, would you speak, I pray, in Jesus' name. Amen. So, put to death, that's not so easy, put to death, therefore, what is earthly in you. And he does some identifying here. Sexual immorality, impurity, that sort of covers a lot. Passion, evil desire, and covetousness, which is idolatry. On the account of these, the wrath of God is coming. Do anyone here, do they want the wrath of God in their life? I think life brings enough problems. I don't want the wrath of God on that, right? So, you know, when we go, we want to be disciples. We want to be kingdom people. What good can a broken man and a broken woman do to bring the light of Jesus to people? And here's what I'm going to tell you. You can be a tool that God has made you to be that is forged in fire. You can be forged in fire. Now, before Laura passed, I went to a men's breakfast, and this Force Recon guy came up to me. I told him my life story up to that point, and he's like, I never want to follow in the Army. He's like, or no, the Marines. He's like, I don't want to follow that guy. His uniform's always clean, and it's his first time out. And I'm just like, okay. And I had no idea how much more was coming. But he's like, I want to follow the person that's been there and walk through that. And that's who you're called to be. No matter what your past, it is not an excuse for not dealing with it. Because here's what God can do. I'm going to have some fun with this. Some of you are a bent screwdriver. You might know what this is. This is a screwdriver that it fits under certain things so that you can twist it and move it because your hands can't get in there, and I'm probably messing that up. But some of you can do something that no one else in this room can. You can be this screwdriver that has a bend in it. That means your life can be bent up, and God can still use you. He doesn't have to straighten it. He can straighten it internally, but he doesn't have to straighten it externally. I just had fun to see if you're awake. If anyone's sleeping, there you go. Alan's up there. Some of you are lights. Sorry. I hope I don't cause like a seizure on somebody in here. That would be a bad. Miss Robin, help. Some of you are lights. You bring lights to issue. You expose things. that are in the dark. And everyone needs that in their life. Some of you are bolt cutters. I see my brother Rob like that. He just wants to come up and you be in chains and just take that thing and crack it open. Well, me, I'm more like a crowbar. I want to see what that is, and I want to get up in there and take a hammer to it. And you ever put that leverage on a good crowbar? If the crowbar is not forged, what happens? It bends. It just, it doesn't do any good. But I want to be forged. Now, I don't want to always be hammering, don't get me wrong. But God can use a crowbar to get in and say some hard things. God can use a bolt cutter. God can use a light. Some of y'all are gentle, but still hammers. You can go up there and, because you don't want to dent the screw or the nail, you're just going to hit it real lightly. So use that soft touch. Everyone in this room needs a soft touch every once in a while. Y'all don't need a crowbar all the time. I actually try to lay the crowbar down a lot more and pick up some other tools. Some of you don't know what this is. I don't even know what it is. But it's a torque wrench that you put a certain amount of pressure, or if you put too much pressure, what happens, mechanics? Breaks, right? But some of us need to be finely tuned and set the gauge so that when we see a nut, if you know what I mean in this room, we're a bunch of nuts, and you're like, I'm just going to wind that sucker up, and you get in there and you overdo it, you crack it, and I'm like, hey, that nut's weak, and I'm gone. I did my part, and I'm not going to drop this because the floor would pay. But we put so much pressure on. Will this work on all the bolts that I need? Nope. I could have bought 100 of these, different sizes. Matter of fact, I probably have 10 of each kind. I don't even know. But you need the right size. This is why God's kingdom is so important. He needs different types of wrenches, different sizes, metric and U.S., so we can cover the whole world, right? So that when we can work on an American car and we can work on a European car. And we can go there and we fit it in, and instead of just getting angry, it's like, oh, no, let's find a wrench that will work. And Rob and I have joked so much because we have taken turns back and forth so much in life. There will be times where I will spend hours with somebody. And in 30 minutes, he tells them something that I've been telling them for days and weeks and years. And voila, they get it. That makes me... Because I put all that effort in, right? But you know that whole thing with pouring the seed and rain, and God brings the increase. So we got to be okay with that. And there have been times Rob said, man, these people come into my office, and they spent hundreds of dollars, and in 30 minutes you told them something, and it's like something I've told them 10 times, but they didn't get it. And there are many of you who I've said something, or vice versa all around, and you step in and say a word, and you're that right wrench for the problem. You put just the right amount of torque. Some of y'all are ice picks. I got a protector on this because I need protection from that, because I'll hurt myself. You don't want to be this kind of ice pick person, right? But sometimes you need a precise thing to go in and tap on the problem and take care of it. Think of splinter removal if you were to take a pair of tweezers. I got tons of tools in here, but I'm not going to keep going with that. But God wants each and every one of us to be instruments in the Redeemer's hands. It's a great book, by the way, if you have not read it. The gist is this. If I'm a doctor and I'm going to operate on you, does anyone want me to operate on you? Alan? Who said me? Okay. You don't want me operating on you. Because my go-to tool is what? But God wants us to be whatever instrument that you are gifted with being, and he wants to use you, and the book's title says it all, that we are instruments in the Redeemer's hand. So think of a scalpel. Do you want the doctor using a rusty scalpel? Do you want the doctor recycling the one from the last surgery and just spraying a little Windex on it and hoping for the best? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to wig you out. I mean, think Civil War stories. No, we want the cleanest, sharpest scalpel to be used. So picture, we've got God in heaven, who we know he can do it all. He can do it all. But he has chosen to use you. He is teaching us Bob Ross style. You can do this. You might not like that you're a crowbar, but God might teach you to set that crowbar down some and be more gentle and precise with it. God loves you so much that he wants you to bring life into everyone around you. I had a dear brother last week who was struggling, and I told him this. And one thing I learned during the loss of Laura, whenever perspective doesn't help, like just going, man, I'm blessed, I didn't deserve all that time. Whenever there's grace for today didn't seem to help, the next best thing is just to advocate for others. And it's just to be used. So it's like, okay, God, I'm not much, but I want to go out and bless somebody. And you pull the tool out of your bag, spiritually speaking, and say, God, who can I bless today? You could be miserable. You can be crying. You can be depressed. You can be anxious. Add your adjective in. But when you step out from it being all about me to being who can I bless, and now let me put a little asterisk in there. If all you're doing is helping advocate for other people, but you are not a healthy tool, you are bypassing God's best for you. You are saying, this tool is good enough, God. You can use whatever. Here I am. And remember Peter and the disciples? Did that work for them? Did Jesus go, you're just right where you are? No. Jesus had a bunch of stubborn disciples like you and me and with him. And I just imagine he shook his head. There it goes again. Shining light when it's dark out and people are sleeping. I shouldn't be doing that. You want to be used by God, first have to transform by the blood and the power of Jesus Christ your life, so that then you can transmit that peace that he's giving you. I believe a lot of the church in America have a lot of people who have been transformed by salvation but have not transformed their pain, and they keep transmitting false signals. And that's why the world goes, I don't want that. I don't want that. Can you just hear the Morse code operator? Oh, blank, 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 blank. You're trying to share what God is saying, and then at the same time, that old you comes out, and that anger and that impatience and that stuff, and people are just like, man, woman, you are no different than me. You are no different. Why do I need God when your life's like that? So we have a hope. Verse 7. In these you too once walked when you were living in them. Living in what? Living in sexual immorality, living in impurity, living in passion, evil desire, covetousness. But now you must put them all away: anger, wrath, malice, slander, and obscene talk from your mouth. Do not lie to one another, seeing that you have put on the old self with its practices, and have put on the new self, which is being renewed in knowledge after the image of its creator. Do you see action in these words? Guys, I'm just going to say it over and over and over again. Thinking without action is what? Sterile. Thinking without action, it does not produce fruit. Thinking without action is just a knowledge person. You're in the bottom right. Some of you know what I'm talking about, the quadrant, and you just want to learn more. You want to go to another study to learn more about your tongue instead of stop your tongue from saying the things it's saying. Man, are y'all just sleepy or convicted? I don't know. But when we identify, all right, this is where I am because maybe this happened and this happened and this happened. Okay, start with one. One thing in your life, if you're honestly looking at your past and say, you know this happened, and I need to deal with it. You might have 10 other things on your list. Don't overwhelm yourself. But analyze it and give it to the Lord and saying, God, what would you have me to do? And then take your gauges and answer the questions. Kenny, can you send that out just as a PDF or Word document this week? Check your gauges and then formulate a plan. So next week we're going to be talking about how to have a vision for your life. And I'm not talking about, hey, in 20 years I'm going to be this. Maybe for a few of you, but most of us are going to be, what do I want to look like in 3 months? What needs to change in my life? What pain do I need to transform by the grace of God in my life? And I want to deal with it, and I want to open it up to a person or two that I can trust and share. That is doing heart work. That is far harder than coming here to the altar and trying to pray it out. That happens on occasions. So we all do this because we believe in the gospel. If we're here, I'm hoping most of us believe in the gospel. That means Jesus came and he lived that life for you and me. Because he says, I want to redeem your hurt. I want to redeem your pain. I want to redeem your trauma. And I'm asking, just like imagine Jesus talking to you, I am offering you not just a free gift of eternal life, but I'm offering you my kingdom now, my peace now. And I showed it by the body and blood which I gave up freely on the cross. And because of that, I want you to receive that healing, to receive that help, to receive that hope, so that you can go out and be an instrument in the Redeemer's hand that God is going to use, not you, that God is going to use and turn the way God will turn in other people's life so that you can be a blessing. Does that make sense? You can be an instrument in the Redeemer's hands, but you must be forged through fire in order to have strength to do it. You get out if you have your communion cups available. I'm going to be saying that one over and over again. What you don't transform, you what? Yep. Transfer or transmit. Doesn't matter. You get the idea. Whatever pain you don't transform, you what? Transmit. I'm so hopeful. I'm hopeful and I'm praying for anything in here, any trauma, any hurt, to be brought to light. That God can remove it with a fine scalpel. And you can still have a scar, but you can point to Jesus in the midst of that and go, I have been freed and I have been healed. And then you can walk in newness of life. And then you can be an instrument that doesn't do harm, but does good to the body. It costs Jesus something. It's going to cost you. Were you ever told that discipleship is easy? It's not. Discipleship is having people say hard things to you sometimes. Discipleship is saying hard things to people sometimes with the right amount of tension. That's the spirit. The right amount of love with the right amount of nudging. Jesus, we thank you that by your grace and by your spirit, you can transform us by the renewing of our mind. Take it. You please stand if you're able. Now may the Lord of peace himself give you peace at all times, in every way. You hear that? In all times you can have peace. In every way you can have peace. The Lord be with you all. I, Paul, write these greetings with my own hand. This is the sign of genuineness in every letter of mine. The grace of the Lord Jesus Christ be with you all. And all God's people said. Have a great week.